So you wanted to talk about Biogen. What? Obviously, we know that they did an announcement that they have a new Alzheimer drug. I think the stock shot up to 70% after the news came out.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, I was holding Biogen, not a
Nice.
huge bag, but a decent bag, and I sold my profit and had a nice weekend. So you touch
I,
on
yeah, I'll touch a bit
Biogen.
about it because the guys from the All In Pod mentioned it, and obviously I'm a huge fan. I know you are as well. I guess most people who watch financial podcasts are as well.
Yeah,
They're basically like four guys who all of them have financial experience. I mean, all of them are rich, but yeah, some are richer than the others, and all of them have knowledge in certain fields. The All In Pod. Okay, and they touched about on this subject, and it actually connected to another thing I was researching recently, and I was like, okay, this is a good connection, but I'll get there as I go through. So the whole thing regarding that was that Biogen came out with an Alzheimer drug. Well, the story is a bit longer. They have been doing trials for the past, I think, 3 or 4 years. They initially scrapped the project, I think in 2018 or 19, because they
right.
didn't have results. But then they came back upon it and they were like, oh, wait, we found the use case in which it actually has some results. But even those results, I think, and the guys also thought the same, are like pretty watered down. Like they said that in the disease progresses 20% slower. I was like, okay, that's good, but 20% slower disease progression isn't by any mean a
Groundbreaking.
landslide. Yeah, like
Right.
I was looking at some other companies who have an Alzheimer drug who, at least in the current trials it's in, it's at least stopping the progression of Alzheimer's and has shown signs of reducing the damage it has already done. So I'm like, oh, dude, this one is a much better alternative, right? But nonetheless, this
I
drug got
think
accepted by the FDA. Yeah,
I
go.
think okay, the story. Okay, I think that's the huge part because for something to be accepted by the FDA, it has to go through a lot of hurdles. So this we might not have the full picture
But
of the situation, but I think what people want to hear is tickers. So who are those tickers? Who are those companies that have um, products that stop Alzheimer's? I think
one
that's what people want to hear.
one second, let me just grab it. I didn't have this prepared, but I'll look it up and I'll be back in a sec. But yeah,
We
the
can
the
move on to
interesting.
the next. Sorry,
Okay,
go ahead.
the ticker is Sava, and it's from Cassava Sciences. And they had some early trials, which it showed that their drug stops and has shown sign of reducing Alzheimer disease. And why this was personally important for me is because my grandfather also had Alzheimer's before he died. Well, he had a lot of other stuff, but the point is, like, I might have it when I get older, so I'm keeping a close eye on this. Okay, going back to the big subject. So the whole thing with the FDA was they have an advisory board where doctors and people who are clinicians are asked, okay, should we approve this? And that board decided, no, you should not approve this. Like, the benefits are minimal, but still the FDA decided to go through with the approval. So it's in the market now. This is super It's a super complicated issue because, first off, its efficacy isn't that great. You had an advisory board who said, yeah, maybe don't approve it. And another aspect is the price. It cost $55,000 per year. And
Per
Friedberg, one of the
year.
guys from yeah, yeah, one of the guys from the podcast, he says that in itself, the antigens themselves to produce, they cost like $5. Of course, it's never gonna be
Wow.
yeah, of course it's never gonna be like, what's the cost to produce and then what's the cost to sell. There's always like multiple things involved. But he said
Sure, sure.
usually the way pricing works for drugs is they think what would be the cost to carry the disease, and then they backtrack that and calculate the price of a drug. And I'm like, really? Well, that's super interesting because, yeah, obviously Alzheimer's would be super hard to carry because you either need to care for somebody, like if it's a parent yourself, or take him to a senior house, right? So,
The
but
cost
that
of that.
the cost of that is super big, man. And they were talking also about the implications of socialism versus capitalism. Because think about it, like if it's 55,000 and you want to pay for it because you have the money and you want to do it, that's fine. But when it's socialism and you'll have a continuously aging population and you have to
Everybody.
actually yeah, put everybody on this, because actually after a certain age the odds of getting Alzheimer's, it's super big. It's
Yeah.
like, I think it increases like fourfold every 10 years or something like that. I heard some statistics regarding that. 1 second, I have a study here.
Hmm.
uh yeah, so currently 6 million Americans have Alzheimer's, and until 2050, 16 million are projected to also have it.
Wow.
So if you multiply that by the 55,000, and if you think that's supported by the government through the various Medicare programs, that's going to be a huge cost for the system. So this is super interesting. Like, I think the discussion of capitalism versus socialism here is super important because I don't think these producers would be pricing this product at this price if they knew the governments wouldn't have to pay for it, because the price tag is immense. Like, there's probably hundreds, maybe thousands of individuals in the US who could actually afford this, right?
Hmm.
It's like a few thousand each month. That's kind of crazy, man. Like, that's not a light cost to carry.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
interesting because
I have
given that
another
such.
angle, but
Go ahead.
yeah, give me your opinion on this, and then I'll go to the other angle.
Yeah. What's so interesting about this is that given that this is such a disease that is so widely spread, you would think that there would be some kind of mandate that would allow it to not be sold at extortionate prices. But I think that's just where the pharma industry is at right now, especially in America, where you do have to sell them at these prices because if they don't do it, then somebody else is going to do it, basically. So you have this problem, and I'm a proponent of the free market, and people being able to set their prices, and then the market sort of corrects itself. But sometimes these stories, they make you think like, okay, maybe the market shouldn't be so free because it's like chickens, headless chickens running around, and yeah, 55,000 a year for that is it's not feasible for any any even upper middle class person.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
that's
not
how much
cheap.
people. That's what people earn a year.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Never mind the medical bill. So yeah, I guess the hope is either that the government will do something about that once it's live, or the market corrects it via disruptor coming in and offering it at a extremely lower price. So this is obviously not sustainable to have a drug cost 55,000. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Go ahead.
Well, I have like two or three bits of information, but one of them is there's a an entity in the US called the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review, which is basically a drug pricing research group. They
Right.
said that at the current efficacy rate of 20% slower of Alzheimer's progression, this drug should cost around 8,000 a year. And if it goes to the best case scenario from their trial results, that's still like 23,000 a year. So
Mhm.
even like drug pricing research companies are saying this is way too much. Like, at this point it's like scalping. This is not fair pricing based on the
Yeah.
results you're producing. And again, this is probably some statistical stuff which the guys, they're probably economists and doctors who are doing these reviews, and they're like, this is way too expensive. Like, even best case, it's twice the price. Worst case, it's like 5, 6, 7 times the price.
Yeah,
So that's a bit unacceptable, if you ask me.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I, it's hard to, argue anything. It's hard to argue the other side. I guess the only way you can argue the other side is that I think they are potentially the first to get that approved by the FDA, and they know that they'll. It's almost like eating everything on the table before anybody can take it, so to say. They'll run with it
Yep.
as long as they can until the government either pushes for the prices to be lowered or there's a competitor that will then offer a cheaper product.
Yep.
So I guess it's just how the market works, and yeah, it's a tough one. I
It is.
wouldn't, yeah, I wouldn't know where to stand with that. And obviously, us being from Europe, we have probably quite a different view um, of how medical bills are structured and so forth. I don't think you could. I don't think that would even be legal here. So yeah,
I don't know. I have some statistics prepared for this. So I was doing some research, and I took some information from some government agency in the US, and
yeah. Can you show
basically,
it?
no, it's
Okay,
textual.
okay,
It wouldn't have
okay,
made
okay.
a lot of sense. Uh, in the 65 to 74 age group, basically people's annual average spending on medicine is $5,000. So this would be 10 times the average.
Wow.
So not a lot of people would afford this.
No,
And even this $5,000, it's on a basis of, it's like 15% of their income at that age.
that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's, I think their income is like 60,000, which means that basically, if they would want to take this drug as well, if they would take it out of pocket, they would have to spend all the money they're generating at that age. So it's insane. I'm just trying to formulate how insane the price tag is if it's not
Yeah,
subsidized. And if it's subsidized, it's basically not one person paying for it, but all of us, which doesn't necessarily make it better for the system. It makes it slightly better for the individual, but still the price tag is insane.
it's enormous.
And the last
Give me
link,
1 sec.
which,
I need
yeah,
actually go through the stat. I just need to turn my light on just so I don't.
okay,
It
yeah,
doesn't
go
look
for
too
it, go
dark
for
in
it,
there. Yeah.
go for it. The other interesting aspect here was the fact that I was doing some research regarding inflation. Yeah, it's one of the things I like researching.